one of Giles's things he was about the exit thing is saying innovate close to the core. And he was, again, common sense. Yeah. So he gave the example of Innocent with the veg pots. And it's like, well, Coca-Cola don't want to buy a veg pots business. They want to buy a juice business. This links back to everything we're saying, empathy, focus, halo brand. Yeah. So they fucked off the... They
didn't do veg pots.
Yeah, and then I think Bowl's now done that. And then again, I suppose with what you're doing, the Crosta Mollica, as well, if we're going to innovate, because I know the other thing that's interesting with Crosta Mollica is you've got like a gazillion different products in different categories.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd probably cull and cut back, or because the garlic bread is the example of innovating?
That's a genuine innovation that we didn't do before. So so when I first got in touch with the business, we were in 8 categories. Yeah. So we everything from coffee to sweet biscuits, savoury biscuits, gelato, desserts, breads, and actually one of the sort of strategic things we decided up front was it's going to be very hard to win in 8 categories because we're quite a small business. And to win, you need to focus. You need to be really good at one thing. And we were really good at the 8 things, but not as good as we could have been if we'd focused. So we looked at it, and 65% of all our revenue came from pizza. So we decided that because it filled those criteria ahead of being big market, etc., that's the one to focus on. So we've focused our energies on growing pizza. We still run the other categories. Some we've de-emphasized, let's put it that way. So most of our energy now, 80% of all that we do is making pizza successful. And our objective as a company is to be Europe's most exciting pizza company. So we are going to win with pizza. The other businesses will grow, but not as fast. And in the end, pizza will be 85% of what we do from a revenue.
And when you say grow it, is that just unlock more distribution? Because what I don't understand is you're already in shitloads of distribution.
Well, we're in less than half the supermarkets in the UK.
Really?
Yeah. We're not in. So we're in less than half of them. Yeah. So we've done well in that we're in Waitrose and we're in Ocado. All of those, but we're not in all Sainsbury's and Tesco's, far from it. And we're not in any Asda's and not many co-ops. So
how do you fight the tension of going mass market but keeping that premium niche price point? Because that's another thing that's like...
Yeah, I never worry about that. I think my approach to that is that if you want to build a big brand, you have to be fully available to consumers. And the kind of consumer that wants to buy or is currently buying Crosta Mollica in Waitrose occasionally goes to other supermarkets. People are promiscuous when it comes to supermarkets. And so I want to be available for them to buy at whichever supermarket they're shopping in. And if you want to have a big brand, whether it's Tyrells or Pierre or Lily's Kitchen, you have to be fully available. You can't do it by being in 10% of the supermarkets. You've got to be in as many as you can be in. And you've got to be in Europe and you've got to be in the other markets as well. So I think, I never worry about that. The key is be fully available, and then you maximise the potential size of your business.
That's fascinating. And the in terms of brands that get a lot of again, I'm just putting stories from so many people I've interviewed, is you can sometimes get into too much distribution, whereby you just can't get the average rate of sale up. So, for example, I think even the head of buying at Co-op said this to me. That was like, if you get into... It's better to be in 200 stores where you can build a real burning hot rate of sale versus 1,000 stores where you can't actually get that average rate of sale up. But how do you fight that tension of like, be everywhere? I completely agree with that. But then if you're everywhere and your average rate of sale is being pillaged because you're in too many stores, and then again, the buyer looks at the data and gives you...
I can honestly say I've never had that problem.
Really?
Never, ever had that problem.
Wow.
It's always the other way around, which is we really deserve more stores and we're still fighting to get them. So, I mean, if you've got a product... Actually, that's the worst case scenario. So let's say you and I were going to buy a business.
Yeah.
We're going to buy a food business which has got, 50 million of sales, and it's got wonderful distribution. It's everywhere. If you dig under the surface and find that the rate of sale per store in the new distribution is not very good, there's only one way that business is going to go. It's going to come out of those stores. Once you start coming out of stores and losing distribution, that's it.
Yes.
That's it. That means you've topped out. So we all want to buy. So firms do this, and at some point they all peak and flatten out. If you buying a business and that scenario has occurred, you're here and it's going to do that or maybe that, and that you want to run a mile.
And so, what do you think? A lot of brands will sort of paint the picture it going like that, but it's actually.
It's always you always got today. So you got today,
Yeah.
And if you're there, that's not good. If you're there, that's sort of optimistic and looks quite good. It looks like it might continue. But if you discovered that data that you've just described as a scenario where you've got too much distribution, that is an awful situation to be in, and I would run a mile.
So that's where the data does come in handy.
I'd rather not know. Well, as a buyer, I'd like to know, but that data is telling you a very worrying story, which is you don't deserve to be in those stores because not enough people want to buy your product.
Yes.
You only exist in the rarefied atmosphere of the few stores that you were in previously. You're a small brand. That's right at the start. You said, how is it that some businesses get stuck at 5 million? Well, if that's the scenario you're talking about, that tells you everything you need to know. The market for your product is not very big. It's not big enough to justify the distribution you've got. That's it.
The market isn't big enough. Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't, you need to get 10, 15 units per store per week to stay distributed. It varies from category. But if you're only getting 3, when they give you all those stores, you're getting 3, you've failed.
And what in your experience have you some of the tactics you've done to get it up to 15 across those stores as you move from, say, a Waitrose brand to fill in the blank other more Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Asda?
Again, it doesn't. In my experience, what I work with doesn't work like that because the way it works with us is you go into the first set of supermarkets and you get 200 supermarkets, or you go into an account for the first time and they give you 200 supermarkets. It does very well. And then all my focus is on, we usually get 15 or more. And then you say, well, we got 15 in these 200. We think you should give us 200 more. So I've never been in that situation. It's just...
Yeah, well, this is...
So I don't ever think, how can I get it up to 15? It's already there. What I do is launch new products. And you have to make sure that if you're launching some innovation, that it doesn't just steal from your existing range. So if you've got 3 pizzas and you launch another one, you've got to make sure that the other one just don't all diminish by the same as that.
Doesn't cannibalise the...
Precisely. So,
and how would you do that?
Well, one of the ways we've done that is by launching garlic bread, which I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
Garlic bread, if people are buying garlic bread, they're not swapping garlic bread for a pizza. They're swapping someone else's garlic bread for your garlic bread. So that's 100% incremental.
Okay, yes.
So
yes.
So innovating near the core, but not on top of the core, allows you to steal from competitors and not cannibalise your own business.
Espressos is sponsored by supply chain software gurus Unleashed. It talks to your e-com and accounting software. It's helped islands cut admin time in half, get granular clarity on your margins, know where your stock is, don't miss availability. Brands like Candy Kittens, Tiny Rebel and Trip all use Unleashed, and so should you.